Hey, this is Rob Swanson with the Real Estate Mogul Show. Let's get into it. What's up, everybody? Rob Swanson back with another Real Estate Mogul Show. Hey, we've got the crew back in the studio -1 today, but we've got some great things to talk about, and it's going to be a fun show. We're going to dive in and give you guys some things to think about and to go take action on in your real estate investing business. So with that being said, what's up, guys?
What's happening?
I was about to describe myself as like king of the tiny dogs over here. If I had Edgar on my left and Coco on my right.
Oh my gosh, yeah, we got two little dogs in the studio today. We got Coco, which Joe, you're watching, a little babysit action, right?
Yeah, a little house sitting for some friends, Coco, and there's a cat at home, Macy, as well. So super fun. I knew that Edgar was going to have a nice time with Coco.
Yeah, that's funny. They've been sprinting up and down the hallways of the office here this morning, so having a good time. Well, let's bounce it to you guys. What's up in your worlds?
Well, I'm currently sitting in Mike's seat, maybe trying to channel a little bit of Mike here.
Yeah, man.
Moved over to the left.
I like it. Are you trying to take over, or?
Yeah, I got Mike sick. That's why he's not here. I'm just trying to take over the whole couch.
We talk about it every week, but he's got kids. He's in the middle of the gunk, and he's sick, so we're glad he's not in the office since he's sick.
That's true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully he gets back soon. But yeah, everything's good over here. Pretty busy week last week. A lot of stuff going around the Freedom Soft office. We had a lot of movement. Me personally, the past 2 episodes, we've talked about all those deals that I had coming through the pipeline through July.
Yep.
Those are all done. So 4 deals in July, 3 wholesales, and 1 acquisition. So
nice.
That was last Friday. So
Super
closed and Hip Pocket National Bank.
Everything is done,
right.
and I'm gonna hit a cooler for at least a week. I gotta decompress with all the paperwork and stuff like that. So.
Oh, come on. Come on. You don't take the foot off the gas once the car's rolling.
Yeah, so
I push it down and you go.
Fortunately, with this lead, we've talked about it, was the tired landlord. So I'm just going to be on to the next offers with him, which have already been in conversation. So pretty good lead there on that guy. So
that's
closed 4 deals with him. He's got more houses, so we're just going to move into the next few with him here in the next week. So,
nice. Yeah. I like it.
Very cool.
Beautiful. Now, Henry, before we spin over to Joe around the corner on the buttons, you were up doing a little fly fishing this weekend.
Yeah. After Friday, after everything closed and I saw everything wire over, and I said, we're going to the mountains. So
nice.
We, my wife and I, Olivia, headed up Friday afternoon, hit some 70 traffic, but pretty much got up to the dispersed camping spot that we wanted to go to before anyone else was up there, which was great. So we got to be at that camp spot in the daylight, cook dinner over the fire, and then hiked up to these alpine lakes on Saturday morning. Took about
we got a video here.
Yeah.
What whoops, let's go back. Let's try to find here we go. This lake, what is it?
This is a alpine lake called Mohawk Lakes. I'll say the name in case there's any fly fishermen out there. I'll give away the name because it takes you 2 hours to get there. So if you want to hike up there, you deserve to fish it. So it's called Upper Mohawk Lakes. There's a lower, and then you hike another ridgeline to get to the top. So bunch of some Colorado cutthroat in there that have been in there for years.
I was going to say, because it's known for
the cutthroat trout. Yeah. There's no other species in those lakes up there.
Yep.
They are the dominant species in there because there's no brown brook trout, anything. It's just cutthroat. And this is one of the lakes that historically they've airdropped them in, and then they've lived there forever. So
nice.
Oh, cool.
Nice. Well, around the corner on the buttons, Joe, what's up?
Yeah, just a good weekend. We were joking about it earlier before the show, but I helped a buddy who got in a car accident, and we had to go straight Midwest style, rope tow this thing, save some money on a tow. And the reason he did that was because he was in Europe. So he got in this car wreck. was in the middle of it. You know how it is. It's just in the middle of like insurance stuff, and he's going to Europe. So this was he's out of town, and a couple friends decided that we were going to help him move his truck. So we towed it up. Only snapped the rope once around one corner, so that was good.
I thought you were going to say only snap the bumper once.
No,
Right.
the bumper was definitely already snapped. It was pretty bad, but that's what we didn't have, towing straps, so we had to use this rope. And like I said, yeah, it did us good. We only snapped it once, had a great time. Fun little Sunday afternoon.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. Well, let's see. What have I been doing, man? I don't know. I have.
You had a couple sick people at home, right?
Yeah.
Wife
Last
and
week
son.
we had some sick people around the house, and so I stayed healthy. I stayed out of that the whole time, and that was good. We have been kind of around just local more. We hit the mountains a little bit. We did a hike, and even though that was last week. My wife rolled her ankle, which was crazy because she was
While hiking?
Oh,
She didn't realize that she was, when we went on this hike, we were hiking Kruger Rock, which is up above Estes Park, and she didn't realize she was sick, like in the early stages of getting sick. And so she's hiking along, and normally she's like a monster hiker, and she's like, why do I feel so tired, and why am I not feeling well? And it turns out later we figured out, oh, she was coming down, like she was starting to fight something and get sick. Well, we got up to the top of the summit and then back down, and we're like a half a mile from the car. And she was starting to get tired, and she was starting to get like, oh, we're there. And she rolled her ankle, and I look back, and she's Supermaned out on the trail. And I like cruise back to her, and I'm like, don't move, just stay here. Like, what'd you hit? Are you okay?
Wow.
But here, I'll tell you what, this is my wife. She had homeopathic remedies in her backpack.
I love it.
Because she doesn't go anywhere without them. And so she immediately took an Arnica 200, and it prevented swelling, it kept the pain down, and it never bruised up. And so she kept taking that, and then she took a few other remedies, and then when she figured out she was sick, she took the remedies for that, and now she's back. She's good.
Funny you mentioned rolling your ankle hiking. Olivia, 2 weekends ago when we did the other Alpine Lake, she was rocking her older low-top Sportiva hiking shoes. They're great approach shoes, but they're really made for trail running, not for like up and down hiking. So last week she got some mid to higher top Danner boots, and I had no idea because I've always had low top hiking shoes, but she said it was night and day for those longer hikes.
Yeah,
no knee pain. Calves weren't locking up. Ankles are secure.
Nice.
I guess it makes all the difference.
Yeah.
Danners are nice too.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I gotta save one of my other conversations until Mike gets back, because Mike will be the guy out of the three of you guys to carry this conversation with me. I'm thinking about upgrading to a faster airplane, and so I'm a little bit in the active hunt. I got a guy that wants to pay cash and buy mine, but I don't want to sell mine until I have my faster turbo replacement identified. And so I've been figuring out what fits the mission and kind of what plane to land in. And now it's just a matter of being patient.
Yeah, everyone was super curious on your Facebook post. They're like, "What's next? What's next?"
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then what's his name? Who is also another software owner. He has a
Tyler.
Yeah, he was asking you as well. I read all those comments.
Yep.
That's the extent of what I can help you out with this conversation.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting, deep conversation, and we won't get into it here. But there's the plane that I want, but the problem is, it's a Mooney. I fly a Mooney today. I just like it. It's fun. Now I would definitely go out of the Mooney brand manufacturer into something else, but the plane that fits my mission is in the Mooney line, and we like it. They're fast, they look good, they're fun. But I think, my first plane that I'm flying now was my experiment, and it was, will I fly it? Will I enjoy it? Will we use it? Or will it sit in the hangar and be a hangar queen? No, we use it all the time. We go places. And so what we thought would be local trips-ish has turned into, like, we really go places, like 800,000 plus mile trips. And as a result, we just want to go faster. And so anyway, long story short, we'll curb that discussion until Mike gets here, because it amazes me the level of random knowledge Mike has about almost any subject.
Yeah, this is late night YouTube binges.
Right, exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's all good. Well, cool, guys. Well, hey, let's jump into today's topic. And here's the thing that I want us to take a tackle at, or take a shot at talking about, and it's unlocking your real estate fortunes. And how do you craft a vision and set goals to accomplish it? So we've talked in previous shows, and I think we got into it in the last show, talking specifically with Mike a little bit about some of his personal goals. And, what came out of that was this concept of kind of reverse engineering, saying, what's my destination? What is my result? What is the goal? And then kind of backing into, well, what do I have to do today? And so for those of our listeners that are entrepreneurs, they've probably heard of the book Traction by an author named Gino Wickman. It's a great book if you haven't heard about it. There is an entire industry of business consultants that have birthed up out of the Traction book sort of cult or culture, if you will. And what Traction builds around is the EOS, the Entrepreneur's Operating System. And so it creates a framework from which to operate your business, and designed to help you hit and achieve goals. And so one of the things that is critical, and I've talked about this on other videos and shows in the past, is this concept of planning. And so in EOS, they have this concept of they've got the 10-year plan, they've got the 3-year, and plan, goal, target, strategy. The words might vary a little bit in the book, but they've got the 10-year plan, they've got the 3-year target, they've got the 1-year goal, they've got the quarterly objectives, and then they've got all the way down to the tasks required right now to hit that. And so if you don't know where you're going, it's really hard to get there, right? Think about a map, or think about flying an airplane. If you don't put in your direct to destination when you're up in the sky, everything looks the same. Like, you could be going the exact opposite direction and you would have no clue. You're cruising along at 200 knots and you have no idea you're going the wrong direction. And that's because you didn't put your destination into your GPS and into your target. And the whole thing in business is the same concept. You've got to get clear on where you're going, and then you've got to reverse back to, what do I need to do today to hit that goal? And I know, Henry, we've talked about this with you a little bit, and just kind of thinking and planning those goals out.
Yeah. So, I mean, I took, because we do that here at Freedom Soft.
Yep.
We do it as far as the software goes. But, I just organically was like, well, I could just copy this for my goals.
Oh my God. we got
two little rabbits.
we got 2 little rats running around here, man. My goodness.
But yeah, so I mean, organically, I was so used to thinking about it like that, to where when you first start wholesaling, I definitely wasn't thinking like this long term. It was, let me figure out how to wholesale. Let me get good at it. Let me feel comfortable. I think that was my better mindset. Let me feel comfortable doing it, and then we'll go from there. But once I started getting into the mindset of scaling it, then I kind of needed to look 1, 3, 10, and I think I have a little bit more vision on just the 1 and the 3 right now.
Yep.
Because everything's moving so fast
Yep.
that I want to keep up with that. But the 10 is interesting to me because I can throw a number on the amount of rentals I want, but I don't even know, just because I'm so new at it, I don't know if that's not enough. Could it be more? It's just I don't know what a 10-year goal looks like for rental properties. But for one, that's changed. It changes every year, just like it changes here at Freedom Soft.
Yep.
One for me last year was, or 2 years ago, was to wholesale 5-10 deals in the year.
Yep.
And then this year was to do that plus acquire 5 rentals by the end of the year.
Yep.
That was the 1 year.
Yep.
If you were to ask me my 1 year now, because I know how to acquire, my 1 year from here, really it needs to be faster than that 1 year, but it's to
Yep.
find private money.
Yep.
In less than 1 year, basically, so I can move a little bit faster.
And I think that rolls back to the tasks,
Yep.
right? That the task that you have is to find and build a private lender network.
Yeah, network, find people, talk to people, try to figure out where I can be incorporating that breakfast conversation, so to speak, on pitching private money. But that would be 1. 3 is, if 1 year was 5 rentals, then I just multiplied it by 3 and added 5. I wanted 20 by 3 years, basically, is the goal.
Yep.
And then 10, I haven't really thought about. That's really far in advance. I have a mindset on personal goals in 10 years, but not as far as the real estate side of things go. I really more thought about it short term.
Well, let's take that for a second, because I think that's a mistake that most entrepreneurs, most people make. They separate business goals and objectives from personal. And in reality, the only reason a business exists is to make a profit for its shareholders and owners. That's why a business exists.
Yep.
A business doesn't exist to serve its customers. It doesn't exist to pay its employees. It doesn't exist to create a product. A business exists to make a profit. Now, somebody's going to hear that and say, oh, what a jerk. That's horrible. But that is the reality. Like, if the business isn't making a profit, the business isn't going to last. And so then there are no customers to serve. There is no product to sell.
Never would have been there in the first place.
Yeah. Or yeah, right. It wouldn't have been there in the first place. And so the mistake that I see entrepreneurs sometimes make is they separate personal goals from the business objective. And at the end of the day, you have to wake up and ask yourself, is the business serving me, or am I serving the business?
Yeah, and I get where you're coming from, because if I have a mindset on where I personally want to be in 10 years, then the 10-year goal for the business is going to be fueling that, basically.
That's right.
And I could backtrack it just like we did for Mike.
That's right.
So I get where you're going.
And I want to bring it full circle so people don't hear the wrong thing, because the reason a business makes a profit is because it serves its customers and it treats its team well, and it creates a great product, right? So the reason the profit exists is because all of the other things are done correctly. But without the profit, it doesn't matter. The main thing is, don't separate the personal objective from the business objective, because they are one and the same. And when I think about a 10-year plan, right? When I go out 10 years is a long time. And especially with the speed and the rate at which technology in the world is changing today, 10 years is an enormity. Now, the cool thing about that is that your vision and what you cast is never set in stone. It doesn't have to be locked, stocked, and barreled in. It's a dynamic thing. So you can change the vision as long as you have a vision. You can change the destination as long as there's a stated destination. So vision can be a dynamic, evolving, growing, moving thing, but it's critical to have one. And that's the important piece. Have one, but then don't be so locked in it, because here's what happens sometimes. Somebody comes up with a great idea, they lock it in, and then they just go work hard. And they keep working hard, and they're pounding away at something and they're not getting the result they want, and they keep pounding away at it. Sometimes it's best to say, wait a minute, why isn't this destination happening? What's wrong with the vision? Is there something wrong with the vision, or is there an execution problem, right? So there's a couple of questions. You got to adapt.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of times people don't adapt because they get so locked in and excited about that first vision they've created. And so in your example, 10 years, maybe it isn't the number of rentals. Maybe it isn't, maybe it's a little bit more subjective.
Mm-hmm.
In 10 years, I want my real estate portfolio to be cash flowing in such a way that the portfolio buys me a new rental every 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
You could have, that could be a goal. And so then you have to say, well, wait a minute, what would it take to do that?
It's open enough. It's subjective enough.
It's subjective enough.
Because I could see, because you hone on this all the time, is the one thing that's always promised is change. You say it a little differently, but I mean, what comes easy now for me because of the state of the market or just my skills may become hard in 7 years or 5 years. But the 10-year goal is subjective enough to where I can adapt and change, but still accomplish that 10-year goal somehow, some way. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's got to be, there's the SMART goal, right? Which is, it's simple, measurable. I can't even remember what it is off the top of my head right now. SMART, what is it?
Simple, measurable, attainable. I don't know what R&T is.
Yeah, something, and then I know it's time bound. Gosh, that's embarrassing. I should know. I know what this is because I think about it all the time, and I'm going blank on what the acronym stands for. Joe, are you looking it up?
Look it up.
What is the
We're hitting the Joe Rogan.
Yeah,
I got
Jamie,
you.
pull that up.
Yeah. Pull that up for us.
What
SMART.
is it?
SMART goals. And then give us what the acronym is, because somebody's sitting out there and yelling into the podcast right now and saying it's, I know, we forgot.
Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound.
Yeah, that's
very
right.
close.
Yeah.
So on your 10-year, if it's specific, and so take that example that I gave, and you can make it whatever you want, but let's say that it's, you want the cash flow of your portfolio to buy you a new house every year. Okay? So what would it take to have your net cash flow at a point where your net cash flow in a year pays cash for and buys you a new house? Let's say that a new house, a new rental costs $70,000. So take 70,000 divided by 12. And whatever that math is, here's my calculator. Let's look at it. 70,000 divided by 12. That's $5,800 a month. So net cash flow is what you need. How many houses do you have to buy between now and 10 years to have a net cash flow of $5,800? Let's just say that your net cash flow, I mean, right now, the first two you bought, your net cash flow is, say, $500.
On average, a little bit higher than that, but right around above 500.
And let's just say 500 because you are going to have a tenant turn, you are going to have a vacancy month. So those things affect your net and ultimate number. So let's just say it's $500 a month. You need 12 houses.
Mm-hmm.
Between now and 10 years from now. Yeah. Right? You're going to have 12 houses by the middle of next year.
Mm-hmm. That's the plan.
That's the plan, right? And so when you start to think about what does it take for your cash flow to now build your portfolio by itself, that's how you start to think about that. And most people don't think about that. But the most successful investors that I know have cash goals, they have cash flow goals, and they have portfolio growth goals. Mm-hmm. So I want X cash in the bank. I want X net cash flow performance out of my portfolio, and I want X growth in my in my portfolio over time.
Yeah.
Those three things are what I see some of the most successful real estate investors thinking about all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Doing that math, backing it up, how does that affect how you're thinking about what you're doing now?
Well, and we just found out that it would be accomplished much faster than 10 years. So,
Yeah.
And again, you just randomly came up with that for 10 years. But I do know that for me personally, in 10 years, I would like to be in our second home here in Colorado, medium to bigger size family. I would love to have a family by then for sure. And I have a feeling I know what it would take to do that, especially where we would want to move to here in Colorado.
Yep.
Primary residence turned into a rental here already at that point as well.
Yep.
But even then, I just feel like that stuff I want to make happen way sooner than 10 years.
Yep.
Which is why I understand the idea of making the 10-year really more subjective.
Yeah. And then back it up from
Yeah.
the 10-year back to the 3-year, right?
Yeah.
And so doing that quick math, right? We said portfolio is buying you a house a year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we did that quick math and we said, wait a minute. On the pace you're at right now, your portfolio is going to be able to do that by the end of next year.
Yeah.
And so we go back out 10 years and we say, well, maybe it's buying a house every 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's buying a house a quarter. You want the portfolio cash flow to buy you a new house a quarter, right? And so you started with the concept of it buys you one a year. Then you reversed that math and said, wait a minute, I'm on pace to do that next year. Let's think bigger 10 years out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing that I think real estate investors often struggle with is thinking big enough. Because there's these lofty you see people, right? You see the success of some people and you say, how did they get there? How did they do it? And oftentimes it's not a magic bullet. They didn't sometimes it's they inherited the money, right? But most often not. And you can oftentimes tell those that inherited the money against those that built something and created that wealth, right? And so you look at people look at successful people and they say, I don't know if I could ever do that. Think bigger and then reverse engineer, make good decisions along the way, and you're likely to land where you hope to faster.
Yeah. I mean, and again, even how quickly this has moved in the last year, like you said, you see people, and we're around a lot of successful investors all the time that either started with single family or started in some alleyway and transitioned into bigger and faster moving rentals. So, my mind's been churning lately, especially on the private lending side of things, that if something like that were to get locked down and I had that ready to go, I mean, nothing's stopping me to learn as much as I can about multifamily, duplexes, things that warrant a better cap rate and a bigger return faster than just your normal single family. So, and like I said, you see people, and there's a lot of successful real estate investors that, their portfolios, just like someone would think of stock, is diversified through the types of properties that are in their portfolio. So that's how mine's been thinking lately, is to learn as much as I can about as many types of buildings that can be rented out.
Well, and what you're starting to think about is the economy of scale or leverage, but not financial leverage. Leveraging a single roof with multiple streams of cash flow under a single roofed asset, right? And so when you start to think about single-family houses are typically valued based on the resale prices of other similar single-family houses in an area. And so the value of a single-family house is compared to the comps are other solds. They're less valued, even a rental property, they're not valued as much on the cash flow itself. And so there's a couple of pros and there's a couple of cons to that. The pros are your exit strategies. You have a lot more exit strategies. So if you needed to sell a single family house, who are you going to sell it to? You can sell it to another investor.
Retail
You could
buyer.
sell it to a retail buyer. You could sell it to a homeowner. You could turn your tenant into a buyer by leasing it to them and then giving them an option to buy. You could sell it owner financing for someone to live in. So the exit strategies, the speed at which you could liquidate and get out of a single family house is greater. The drawback is you can't affect and impact the value of the real estate as significantly as you can in multifamily with the cash flow itself. And so you move over to multifamily, and even as little as a duplex. Now, duplex, triplexes, fourplexes are still considered residential real estate. So up to 4 units, still considered residential real estate. 5 units and up is considered commercial real estate. And so the valuation discussion is why a lot of times people will say if you try to use a cap rate to define or describe single family real estate, a lot of purists will say it's single family. Cap rate isn't the thing that you're supposed to look at. Well, I get that, and this is why, and it's because single family, duplex, triplex, fourplex, quads are residential real estate, and they're generally valued based on the sold comps of other similar properties. 5 units and up into the commercial side, you start to get valued more on the cash flow. There's a different valuation model. And so the purist will argue that the cap rate doesn't work. Now, I like to still use the cap rate because the cap rate for me is an evaluation of risk. So I understand the performance of a rental house at a certain cap rate. And so it makes sense to me. I can say, hey, I can put X dollars cash into this deal and the asset operates at a cap rate of Y. And so I'll typically try to buy a single family house at a discount in a cap rate. Let's just say a C neighborhood, a solid 50% owner occupied, 50% tenant occupied neighborhood, good blue collar working class area. I'll try to buy in a 12 to 18 cap rate, even a 14 to 18 cap rate, and I'll generally operate in a 10 to 12% cap rate. And so what that means is if I buy it at a 15% cap rate, that's my purchase price plus repairs plus closing costs, and I'm going to cash flow it, I can borrow enough money to front load and put some money into Hip Pocket National Bank up front, and then I can operate it at a 12% cap rate. And so
you've just created barriers for yourself. Just not really barriers, but Guidelines, yeah.
Yep.
Structure.
Yep.
And I use the same math that you taught me, and it's what you're talking about. And now that I have found not a permanent, but a current sweet spot in what I'm looking for and what's working for me, I have numbers around all 4 sides to where it needs to meet that criteria.
Yep.
And like we're talking about, things change and it will change, and I'll transition and move in and out of that box. But right now, I'm using this exact calculation.
Yep.
To fuel it.
And here's the interesting thing. And so let's look at the pros on the multifamily side, because I'm a fan of all real estate, right? Most people come to us from an education standpoint and they can wrap their head around buying a rental. But just like I told you early on, if you're going to buy one rental, you better plan to buy 10, right? Because one rental will be a pain in your butt. 10 rentals starts to be less of a pain in your butt because the cash flow of the 9 covers the one that's vacant on a tenant turn. And you're still probably making a profit, right? And so if you're going to buy one rental, plan to buy 10. Move to the commercial side. And this is interesting. At my home office, on the whiteboard, I've got a kind of a glass whiteboard in my home office. And I have a scenario which is a 100-unit apartment complex. And I have this scenario of this 100-unit apartment complex. And I've got, I think, 5 different scenarios written out there to say, buying it at a certain cap rate. Let's assume that the condition of the property is this. Let's say that it's under market rent. And so these scenarios are, we're gonna fix the place up. We're going to improve the rent. We're going to bring it from under market to market rent. We're going to improve the cash flow. We're going to improve the condition. We can't move the location. It is in the location. So I think all of my scenarios, I think I did one scenario where I was in a B minus type neighborhood. The rest of them assumed a C class neighborhood. Again, that blue collar working class neighborhood. And so going through these 5 scenarios and looking at, okay, I've got 100. The other thing was occupancy. So what I was looking at was, what's the occupancy? Let's say it's 50% occupied, and it's occupied at under market rent, and the condition of the property needs improvement. Then I looked at it and I said, let's say that it's 75% occupied. It's still under market rent, and the condition of the property needs improvement. Then it's 100% occupied, still under market rent, condition of the property needs improvement. Then I said 100% occupied, at market rent, condition of the property needs improvement. And so I looked at all of these scenarios based on those 3 things, right? Occupancy, condition, and market to below market, rent, current, current performance numbers. And the reason I did this is because I had my kids in the office, and a couple of my kids' friends were there, and they were asking something about real estate. And I said, hey, so come into my office. So they came into my office, and they all grabbed the chairs, and they popped them around, and we had like a mini mastermind in my home office. And we went through these scenarios, and I said, if you get good at sourcing real estate deals, if you get good at finding good deals, you can use that skill on a single family house, and you can use that skill all the way up to, our scenario was a 100-unit apartment complex. And then I walked them through the math on, if you take it from 50% occupancy to 100% occupancy, but it's still below market rent and it still needs improvement, what's the value increase? How much value are you adding to the property? And they started to see where the levers could be pulled, and it's amazing when you pull the under market rent to getting it back to market or improving rents on a 100-unit apartment complex, how significantly that impacts valuation
compared to a single family
house. The leverage of the economies of scale in that scenario is great. And so the reason I'm bringing up this conversation is, you said, hey, I'm starting to learn and explore and consider other types of real estate beyond just a single family house portfolio, which I think is fantastic. Because then you start to think about, okay, if let's say your goal was, man, I am where I'm at right now, and I want $10,000 a month net positive cash flow that pays all of Henry's bills. Well, you could go build that one house at a time, or you could go buy that stream of cash flow in one larger asset that has the economies of scale, and you can accomplish that cash flow goal with one acquisition.
Yeah. I haven't thought about it in the 100 unit scenario yet, but in reality, could copy and paste what I'm doing 3 more times to get to 5.
Yep.
Or I can go and find a triplex that essentially may be smaller square footage per door, already rented out or not, but cash flows at or even better than 3 single family homes.
Yep.
And 1 purchase, and I've gotten to 5
Yep.
faster than I can with the 3 singles.
Yep. Generally, you'll see your per door net go down a little bit from a single family house in the same similar neighborhood to a triplex. Not always, but in general, you'll see that net go down. So 1 triplex may not replace 3 single family, but your capital investment to acquire it is going to be less. And that's where the difference comes into play, which is why I like to look at your cash on cash return, your ROI, and then your cap rate. Because now you can compare a single family house with a triplex and the same amount of capital. There's a normalization of the return on investment for the use of that capital that goes into using a cap rate as an analysis tool.
Yep. That's the goal.
That is the goal, man.
And Edgar is passed out.
Man, these 2 dogs, they were, I don't know, for people listening, you guys were probably hearing the barking and the yipping.
Just shuffling everywhere.
Little shuffling earlier, and like Henry kept looking around. We had these 2 little 10-pound dogs, or I guess Coco's like probably 8 pounds.
Yeah, super tiny.
Yeah, and
we
Henry's
had Sam
10.
over.
Well, I was just making sure they were 1 wire tangle away from this whole studio buckling in on itself.
Yeah, totally.
Oh man, we had Sam over here shaking like Edgar's toys to try to get them to come out of the studio and into the hall.
That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. Well, so back to this idea and this concept of a vision, right? And planning, and I think about it like this too. I've been around and in sort of personal development for a long time, and it's over 20 years, and it's framed how I approach thinking. I think my engineer background also then frames how I do it, like the operational approach that I take to thinking and decision making. But just being around personal development and motivation and this desire to be better is such a big deal, because when you're around that, it's much easier to wake up every day and be better.
Yeah. It's addicting. It's contagious. And I'm glad you bring that up, because I've been recently thinking about this as well, is, on the personal side of things, and the business definitely fuels the personal, and it's all intertwined, especially in this space that you're now talking about, is, as I as I progress through learning and falling forward through this real estate investing journey, there's been friends, people around me that are already asking, like, how in the world are you doing this? Like, where are you finding the time? Like, how does that even work? And I'm just organically falling into this space where I feel like I'm going to get the opportunity to help a lot of people. Not even on the real estate side of things. Like, go do that if you want to do that, but really just more on the personal growth, motivation, like you're saying, and just the movement towards being better through these goals, aspirations, and what you want out of your life. Yeah. So, I mean, I was thinking about this last night. I have a bunch of male friends in my life that are on their way to doing great things, but then, I have other people that, may feel a little lost or not so motivated about their life right now. And I think, people like you and I and everyone here in the office, we're given a really good opportunity to be in this space where we can motivate people, and let them know that whatever they're trying to do, it is possible. But yeah, I like where this conversation's going for sure.
Well, and I think that I think that it's similar whether you're male or female, right? You've got goals, you've got targets, you want something. Sometimes those are the same, sometimes they're different, between different people. But at the end of the day, this idea of personal growth and motivation and just getting around people that are thinking that same way is, as you said, the word addicting.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing you want to be around, because you want to be addicted to it. And so take the guy or gal who's, white collar professional in their job, working in their office, in the cubicle, doing their thing. And they're saying, man, I'm listening to this show. I'm listening to these guys talk about this. And the people that I go into work with and hang out with, are complaining about their job. They're complaining about their what they've got to do. They're complaining about,
they're bored.
They're bored.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. They're looking forward to their next vacation because between now and then they've got nothing else exciting going on. And so, I look at that scenario and I think, man, that person who is walking into that environment but saying, I want better, right? I want to improve personally. I see a path to building wealth through real estate. That person needs to get around people that are thinking like what we're talking about.
Yeah.
They need to get around that. They need to get motivated by that. They need to plug in with that. They need to make that their sphere, because you become the 5 or 6 people you spend the most time with, or the people that you pay attention to.
Yep.
What are they doing? How are they doing it? How are they speaking? How are they thinking?
Yeah.
And the more you emulate those positive things, the more it happens naturally in your own life.
Yeah,
luck doesn't happen.
As cliche as it sounds, like everyone, network is your net worth.
Yeah.
But I mean, take out the money side of it. Like who you hang around with, how they talk, how they act, how they get fulfillment out of their life.
Yep.
Like it rubs off on you. It's just,
Yep.
That's just how it's going to go. And then when you throw in the business side, the money side of things, that also rubs off as well. It just makes you more motivated.
Yeah, exactly. And, I think a lot of it, so once you're around positive thinking, once you're around strategic thinking, once you're around goal-oriented thinking, the decision-making process that you go through to make your own decisions, evaluate your own tolerance for risk, and create the vision, the path, and the plan for your own execution of your personal wealth-building journey becomes so much easier.
Yeah, and I think I don't want people to hear, we're talking so broad right now, but I don't want people to hear us saying that, oh, this is so easy. Like it may not come easy to some people, but that's why we're breaking down 1, 3, 10. And even before 1, what are you doing today? What are you doing for this quarter? And then what are you doing for the year? And then 3, and then 10.
Yep.
It's all baby
steps. And really,
steps.
it's the opposite. It's 10.
Yeah, working.
What
it
do you
backwards.
want?
Yep.
Back to 3, back to 1, back to quarterly, back to what am I doing today?
Yep.
So let's take it back to what you're doing today. You've got a muddy 10, right? You've got some clarity around the 10, but it's 10 years out. That's a long ways. You've got some clarity around the 3. You've got 5 times 3 plus 5.
20.
Yep, 20 is your 3, your goal. 20 rentals. Back to the 1, which was your 5, and now back to your quarterly. Back to when your feet hit the floor today. What are you doing to make sure that you're on path to accomplish that goal?
Yeah. So I mean, for me personally, my 1 is still, and we talk about this, you're always going to have an aspect of wholesaling in your game. And for me, it has to be like that because that's what's fueled the other 2 so far.
Yep.
So to get to the 5, I know that consistently every month, I need to consistently do 1 to 3 deals per month.
Yep.
So that I can go and acquire that random 4th one that just makes sense to me, that comes in through my marketing.
Yep.
Or as I'm now, if I'm ready to purchase this month, but out of the 5 deals that I have under contract, none of them meet that criteria. They're great wholesales, but they're just not for me.
Yep.
Then through the network that I've built through 2 years now, I can go buy from a wholesaler if I wanted to, if the numbers work. I can go and explore other outlets of where these deals can be for me on the acquisition side of things. But that hasn't happened yet. I'm fortunate enough to find the 2 that I've purchased were from wholesale deals.
That you found,
direct to seller. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yep.
But I know that when my feet hit the ground every month, my goal is to wholesale. 1 to 3 deals per month.
And so in order to do that, what are you doing? What are the steps you're taking to make sure that you're wholesaling 1 to 3 deals a month?
Yep. So through 2 years of wholesaling, I have a huge pipeline of dead leads, consistent leads that I'm always following up with using FreedomSoft, and then new lead acquisition coming in. Right now, everyone knows it here, I'm a huge direct mailer. That's where all of my wholesale deals have came from in 2.5 years.
Yep.
It's where my acquisitions on the rentals have came into play. So I consistently try to do anywhere from $1,000 to $2,500 of marketing spend per month. And that's, for me personally, in the areas that I market in, have warranted me 1 to 3 deals on average per month.
Yep.
That's the numbers that I've ran.
Yep.
That I know by using FreedomSoft through the dashboards area. I know what I need to be spending to make X.
Yep.
To then transform that into the next rental.
Yep. So using the blueprint that we teach all the time, you wake up, your feet hit the floor, and you ask a question: who am I marketing to today? Who am I talking to today? Who am I following up with today? And who am I making an offer to today? If you take that back to the task today, and you ask those 4 questions on a daily, consistent basis, you win, right? You consistently close 1 to 3 wholesale deals a month. That generates the cash that you're then using to acquire the cash flowing assets.
Yep. And on top of that, you know, it's 1 to 3 every month, and then you do that for a couple months, and that gives me enough to acquire and feel comfortable on the padding side of things. So I have money that gets set aside for each door, basically.
That's right. And that's key too, because what I've always taught my kids, and I've always taught students and people that I've coached and taught for years, is number 1, figure out how to get your active income up. Figure out how to make money, and sometimes that's inside of real estate. Sometimes that's inside of your profession. Sometimes that's sales. Whatever that is, figure out how to get your active income up. If it's inside of real estate, oftentimes that comes first through wholesaling. So getting good at finding a deal, flipping it to another investor, because that begins to prove that you can answer this one question: how would somebody make money on this house? If you can answer the question, how does somebody make money on this house? And people consistently say, yeah, I'll buy that from you, that gives you the confidence to say, okay, I'm figuring this game out a little bit. I know how it's working. And you're padding your bank account. Your active income is going up, so that when you start to acquire rentals and you start to buy, you've got that cushion to say, man, you know what? If a tenant moves out and I've got an $11,000 tenant turn, that sucks, but it's not going to destroy me. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It sucks, but it's okay.
Yeah. I've prepared for it, basically.
Prepared. Because it will happen.
Yeah. No, I know. And I'm not scared about it. Like that's the one thing. I know the risks that I jumped into in going this route.
Yep.
I don't feel the risk. Even it doesn't scare me or anything like that.
And here's why. Because you have the knowledge.
Yeah.
You did the right things because you've been coached properly from the very beginning. You've been coached properly. You walk into Mike's office, you walk into my office, we have a conversation, and you say, hey, I'm thinking about XYZ. Am I thinking about this the right way? And so you share your thoughts, what you're thinking, and we say, yep, that's the way to think about it. Or say, Or we say, hey, as somebody who's been there and done that ahead of you, here's the blind spot you're not yet seeing. So we open the blind spot to you and you say, oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
That's why I'm doing X, Y, and Z. And so it's that connection to somebody who's been there, done that ahead of you, and the ability to ask those questions and say, well, what about this? And if I do this, does that accelerate, or does that, detract from? That's the connection that people need.
Yeah, I mean, and it goes back, we talked about it all the time, but it's proximity. Being in proximity to people that feel, talk, act like this. And, it doesn't have to be in an office right beside each other, right? There are so many opportunities out there, whether that be, just hanging out with us in this podcast, tuning in on our YouTube, any of the Mogul Academy stuff that we have. We've tried to cultivate, and I feel like we do a really good job of it, cultivate an area where people can tune in virtually, right? And get just as much out of walking out of your personal office into someone else's office.
That's right.
But proximity is the key.
Yeah, I think it is, because here's what's going to happen. There's going to be a challenge that comes your way. And how are you going to tackle challenges? So the first you haven't had many challenges. Head on. Exactly. So let's go back to when you first started wholesaling. You had some challenges.
Yeah.
Right? You had, I don't know, out of the first 9 deals you got under contract, probably 7 of them you canceled the contract on.
Yeah, my cancel to close rate was pretty horrendous.
Pretty
early
bad.
On. Yeah.
At the very beginning. Pretty bad.
Yeah.
Right?
Not anymore, but
no, but that's the point. You figured it out. Here's the problem. Too many people get in, they make an offer, get it accepted, they get under contract, and they already cashed the check. And then when the deal falls apart and they cancel the contract, the rehab costs were significantly, or the condition was significantly less than what the seller told them, but all the things, right? They get frustrated. They fail 7 times in a row and they give up. You failed 7 times and then all of a sudden succeeded. And through the 7 times, you learned, oh, okay, that matters. Oh, that matters. So every experience added to your knowledge, and it added to the wisdom, right? Knowledge plus experience equals wisdom. So you became a much more wise deal finder in your local market. You got smarter on geography. You got smarter on zip code selection. You got smarter on condition of property and how that impacts price.
Offer making, specifically in some of the areas that we're in, making the offer correctly the first time or even the second time, and talking through that with the seller was something that I was not good at in the very beginning. My mindset was get the signature and then it'll work out. But
that's not true.
That's not true.
That's right. But then once you figured that out and you learned through that painful experience of doing work and then canceling and not getting paid, and then doing work and canceling and not getting paid multiple times, all of a sudden you're like, okay, what am I learning from this? And then you took one and you said, okay, I know I have to get it at this price. I just know that I have to get it at this price. And then all of a sudden you put a $7,000 payday in your pocket, right? And you're like, okay, I learned something and it worked. And so a lot of times people hit that hurdle or that brick wall or the road, the speed bump, and they stop and they give up and they conclude this doesn't work. It's because they didn't step back and evaluate, okay, what can I learn from the mistake? What can I learn from this not going the way I hoped?
Yeah, and it's like a seller not willing to negotiate or hear you out on why it is the way that it is does not equal wholesaling is bad, right? Or wholesaling is hard. Or,
right.
Yeah, or it doesn't work. Like those two things are not the same thing.
That's right.
But all too often, it's that mindset.
Yep.
I tried seller. I couldn't get any offer accepted. Wholesaling sucks.
Yep.
I think you
Those
got to
aren't
go.
those
I
aren't
think
the
you
same
got to lean into that Babe Ruth analogy where he was encouraged each time he went up to bat because he knew that even if he struck out or something else happened, it was one step closer, one experience closer to that home run.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to take us back 20 years when I first got into wholesaling. So I went to an education boot camp by a good, ran back then and still maybe today. I don't know if he still does some of these boot camps, but by a good friend of mine and one of my first mentors, Todd. And he taught me wholesaling and I had no idea. And I realized, wow, that 78 acres of land that I had under contract the previous year, structured with incredible terms and a rolling option. Man, if I would have known wholesaling, I could have sold my contract back then and put money in my pocket. I canceled the deal because I couldn't fund it. But all the way to I learned wholesaling, I was like, okay, I got it. If I structure the deal, if I find the deal, somebody else with the capital will actually pay me to buy that deal. Got it. Okay, simple. So I went out and I made a bunch of offers and I got a house under contract. And I remember sitting in a parking lot, in a grocery store, on my flip Nokia cell phone, and I got a phone call from one of my $319 Denver Post, doesn't even exist anymore, Denver Post classified ads. Handyman special, 3-bedroom, 1-bath. I think it was like 912 square feet, yada, yada, yada. Call Rob. And I got a call. I answered the call. And I had never wholesaled a house. Okay? This was early on. Never wholesaled a house. But I learned about wholesaling. I came back. I took massive action. I got a property under contract. And I'm like, this feels like a good price. I answer this call. And this person proceeds to rip me up and down. I mean, they went off on me on how horrible the practices of wholesaling are and how horrible I must be as a human. And like, they just ripped me up and down. And I thought to myself, what did they eat? Like, number one, like, why are they so angry at
or
life?
what didn't they eat? Maybe they're just hungry.
Maybe, right. Why are they so angry in life? But I had a choice. I hung up the phone and I had a moment of choice because I could have been like crushed by that and been like, they're right. I don't know what I'm doing. This is horrible. And I could have given up. But instead I said, let me evaluate what did they say to me and why does this matter? And is what they're saying to me real? And I ignored them and I pushed through. And I ended up making $6,000 on that house on South Raleigh Street. Okay. And from that point, I was like, okay, I've never forgotten that phone conversation. And I realized that was a pivotal moment in my real estate investing direction because I could have taken that call and been crushed by it and said, I don't want to do that. Let me try something else. And I could have gone down different paths. But instead, I evaluated their anger towards me and said, wait a minute. Am I really being bad here? No, I'm actually providing a service to the real estate industry because this seller that I talked to had tried to sell it through traditional real estate MLS forms, but the condition of the property was so bad that no listing agent would come in and say, the listing agent said, hey, we'll list your house, but you have to do XYZ, $20,000 worth of repairs. You got to fix the roof. You got to repair the furnace. You got to put the new water heater in. You got to do all these things. Then we'll list it.
And your eventual buyer would have never found Mr. or Mrs. Seller through their normal funnels.
Yeah.
Because they weren't looking there. They may not be sending marketing there.
That's
you
right.
sourced and found the deal that worked best for both sides.
I found a seller that had no other option to sell other than to talk with me, because they tried before. They tried to sell. They wanted to sell. They were told they could not sell until they put $20,000 into it, which is why the real estate investor marketing is, we buy houses, we'll pay cash, any condition, all areas, right? We'll close on the day that's convenient for you. And so once they heard that I was a cash buyer, wasn't financing, that I would buy it in the as-is condition, and that they didn't have to spend any money to do any repairs for me to buy, they're like, you're exactly who we need to sell to, because we've been trying to sell this house, but nobody will list it for us. And it was me going direct to seller and them responding to that communication, that marketing, that actually they raised their hand. We got into a conversation, solved their problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how the game works. They got what they wanted. I, as a wholesaler in that scenario, got what I wanted. I made a quick cash profit, and the buyer got a great property that they were able to buy, renovate, and then they rented it out.
Yeah, and like the vast majority of the people that I'm around have no problems with wholesalers.
Right.
But I mean, ironically enough, I had no idea you were going to tell this story, but last week there was a huge rant on one of the private Facebook groups that I'm on in St. Louis.
Yeah.
And it was it may have been a realtor that was just ripping on wholesalers. And it was actually really refreshing to see big time investors, other wholesalers, and just other people in that community just like being friendly with him, but just trying to figure out why he was so mad, one. Yeah. And two, backing up how wholesalers fit into the equation and why they need to be there.
That's right.
It was nice to say that, but I say all that to say you're gonna be around that. But if you're a new wholesaler or a wholesaler right now, I mean, you're given the opportunity to flip the script, to change the minds of people that feel that wholesalers are crummy, are sleazy. And don't get me wrong, there may be that person out there that's not doing it correctly.
Yep.
And ethically. But you don't have to do it that way. You can change someone's mind, because in the end you are helping out the seller.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly correct.
Dang, I felt like I felt a little mic there.
Yeah,
I was in a seat. That was nice.
I love it.
That's awesome, man. Well, hey guys, here's the deal. Let's wrap this up. We're getting to the end of this. What I want to encourage you to do is sit down and think about your personal and business vision. Like, where do you want to go with your real estate investing efforts and career and business, and kind of start to reverse engineer what do you have to do today to make that a reality. And, you know, Henry's sitting here, he's living proof that if you are around the right people and put the right plan into place, it can start to take shape. It actually works from zero to success, where the bank account is going up and to the right, the cash flow is going up and to the right, the portfolio is being built, the plan is there, and now it's just systematic, continued effort towards the execution of the plan. That's what we do inside of the Real Estate Mogul Academy. When people work with us inside of the Mogul Academy and go through our trainings and get around us and join the community, that's what it's all about. And so, guys, what I want you to do is know that we want to get you more engaged in the show. We want to be able to answer some of your questions. We want to be able to share some of your humorous real estate memes that come up and give you a little spotlight on the show. And so If you have questions, coming soon, we're actually going to put a hotline in place, and there's going to be a phone number that you're going to be able to call or text in. And what would be awesome is if you would call and leave a voicemail with your questions. We'll be able to play that on the show, answer your questions live, and just get the greater community involved in the show. And so that's the game plan. That's the goal. That is the plan going forward. Gentlemen, do we have anything else that we got to drop to wrap this up?
No, I don't think so. I think we're good.
All right, guys, that's awesome. Well, as a reminder, the Real Estate Mogul Show has been brought to you by FreedomSoft. And if you are enjoying these conversations and this content, what we want you to do is we want you to subscribe on YouTube and subscribe on your favorite podcast player, and then share this with your friends. If you are enjoying this conversation and content, let others know about it. It helps the algorithms, and it keeps us motivated to see that growth happening and the impact that we're making. And our goal moving forward is to get you more involved in the show. All right, guys, we'll see you next time. Cheers.